All right, guys. Hi, we're live. We're here with Athena. Super excited to have you here. I just feel like as a woman in the fitness space, a fitness coach, I just think our conversation needs to be had more of. And we're in a space that's predominantly male driven, like so many spaces, and I just feel like our voices don't get heard enough. So super excited to have you here. I would love you to take just a couple minutes and just tell us about yourself, like a couple things about yourself, where you're from, what's your favorite ice cream, what's the thing that you don't like to eat, like tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. That's cool. Well, my name is Athena Perez. I am an affiliate owner, actually, of Scaled Nation CrossFit here in St. Paul, Minnesota. I am the founder of Scaled Nation Training, which is essentially the home of the Working with Larger Bodies course. So yeah, that keeps me super busy. Favorite ice cream. You know what? Honestly, I don't really care for ice cream.
Okay.
Shocking, I know. But
Oh,
I prefer I don't know, like maybe frozen yogurt or
okay. All right. So what's your
like
favorite
that
flavor?
Italian ice. That's pretty good.
Oh, like the original, like the good Italian ice.
Yeah.
Not
Like
the
in the
other flavors.
paper, like the one you had in the paper as a kid where you like,
Yeah,
yeah.
the OG, the original, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, are you a cat or a dog lover?
Dogs.
Okay, favorite kind of dog? Do you have dogs?
I mean, I'm not opposed to cats. Not like, like cats are cool. I just don't have any. I have two dogs. One, his name is Kodiak. He's like a little. What is he? He's a Yorkie Schnauzer. And
Okay.
then Poppy, she's a tiny Maltese. She weighs about 5 pounds and thinks she's a real big dog.
Oh, so she walks around with the big personality, but she's little.
Yeah, yeah. She goes outside and she takes a potty, and then she's got to do that little,
Oh, to make
showing
sure that it
everybody.
goes everywhere so that
Yeah,
her
showing everybody is boss.
I
She
love
owns
that.
the backyard.
Yeah. She got to make sure everybody knows that she's here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important. That's very important. So that's awesome to hear that you have an affiliate. So I would love to kind of go back to the beginning. Like, how did you get involved in CrossFit?
Oh gosh, how did I get involved in CrossFit? I call it a sheer accident.
Okay.
Um, Total accident. A friend of mine at the time, I always saw his stuff on Facebook. Like I'd see the pictures of the gym and it looked interesting, but he was always showing these pictures of him like doing small group classes with this personal trainer that he had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I'd just seen it enough. So I reached out one day and said, hey, do you mind if I connect with this person? And he's like, yeah. So when I originally connected with them, I didn't know anything about CrossFit. I didn't even know they were really at a CrossFit gym. I guess I'd never paid that much attention. And I don't even know if I would have known what it was anyway.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Like
But
so many of us before
yeah,
we actually know what it is, right?
I wouldn't have known what it was anyway. But the goal when I called this person was I just wanted to learn how to walk without my canes. I felt like if I could get mobile enough to just get off my canes,
Mm-hmm.
then that would be cool. So what she told me was that she worked out of a CrossFit gym, and she's like, "Are you going to mind being in a CrossFit gym?" And I'm like, I didn't think it was any different than any other gym. So I was like, no, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I got my first taste of CrossFit like that. So
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, that first initial thought of like gyms are scary, no matter where you go, it's a new situation, it's a new setting, it's a new environment.
scary.
Yeah. So
Can
go ahead. Yeah.
I definitely wanted to ask a question because I know when I was definitely heavier, I was upwards of like homie is texting me like crazy right now.
Ooh.
Oh,
You know who.
the friend. The friend.
But when I first got into when I was getting into CrossFit, I was bigger too. Like I was upwards of, 260, 270 pounds at the time. It was definitely around the time of the ice bucket challenge, like where you were supposed to go. And I
Yeah.
remember, right. And I remember taking a video of myself doing the ice bucket challenge and seeing myself and being like, oh God. And thinking like when I wanted to call my friend and who had a CrossFit gym, I remember thinking I have to get in shape before I can go to the CrossFit gym.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
really did. I asked him, I was like, what do I have to do? And he was so wonderful. He was like, just walk in the door. But in my head,
You know what? I love how everybody says that because we know it's true, right? Like, of
Yeah.
course, at the time I felt exactly the same way. And we all say that you don't have to be fit to do CrossFit. But the reality is that that statement and what we know to be true is contradictory to how we feel at the time. Like we're not dealing with, oh, we have to be fit to do CrossFit. People aren't concerned about, oh, I'm not going to be able to do a push-up. That's not even what they're thinking about. You know what I mean? They're thinking about,
right.
I don't want to be embarrassed when I go to bend over. You're expecting people to
Even your clothes.
Your
Like even the
clothes
clothes you're wearing, how you look in the clothes that you're wearing, that you're yeah.
super, super self-conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was there anything that you said to this coach, or was there a conversation that was had before you actually took those first steps into a CrossFit gym?
That kind of was the first steps into a CrossFit gym, but it wasn't under the umbrella that I was ever going to be doing CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the first time that I walked in there was the night of the open. And it was the night of the last day of the open. It was 2017. And I walk in and I see all these people out there and I'm like, oh my God, like what did I just walk in on?
I mean, that's a way to walk into CrossFit, the open
and very, very intimidating. But it was crazy because the minute that I walked in there, everybody started coming up. They're like, oh my gosh, are you new? Are you going to be coming here? Like everybody was so nice. And I'm like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
So I felt like it allowed me to like let my guard down and then I could just watch and just see what was going on. And then there was this girl that came up next to me and she sat next to me and she introduced herself and she was looking out and she's like, like a year from now, that's going to be you. And I was like, I had my canes. It was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
But it ended up being true. And that was just kind of that was the introduction. But again, CrossFit was at the time was the furthest thing from my brain, like I was just trying to walk.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. And the fact that you were greeted in such a welcoming way, I'm sure very much took away a little bit of the anxiety. I think when you walk into a space and it's like people are just looking, but they don't come up and have a conversation or they don't introduce themselves, at least you had people that were coming up and saying, hey, welcome. And I feel like, for us, when we started at our first CrossFit gym, that was very much the culture. It was like, come in, join us. Doesn't matter where you're coming from. Doesn't matter what your limitations are, your abilities are, how much money you have, what's this, what's that. It literally was just come in, be with us, join us. And I think that is what gyms need, that sense of family and that sense of welcome, that it doesn't matter where you are, but there's a place for you anyways.
Yeah.
And I don't know if many places have that anymore. I feel like there's that sense of like, I'm going to do my own thing and there's no room for you. I'm going to do my own thing and there's no room for you. So hearing that initial introduction of come join us, How did that make you feel when you had people come walk up to you and introduce themselves and say hello, and then being able to sit down and have this conversation with that woman?
I think it was relief,
Mm.
because it's hard to say what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I thought, I don't know what I thought. I didn't expect the reception. So it was more of a relief.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was able to let my guard down, pretty fast.
Yeah.
I was still intimidated by the movements, but as far as the self-confidence and the embarrassment, that went away pretty fast. Then it was just, how do I navigate in here?
Yeah. And then was that the gym that you were with for a while before you started how did that introduction to CrossFit lead you to opening your own affiliate?
Oh,
Or is that like a nice long story?
We're good with long stories. It's fine.
I was like, it was kind of a transition. I will probably always consider that gym like my home. Like,
yeah, we feel the same way. We're just as emotionally attached to the gym that we started in with the coach. Yeah, I get it.
It will always be like my home.
Yeah.
But I was there for about, it was just shy of a year and a half. It was shortly after I got back from California, after CrossFit had done, the first 2 videos. So like the first one that came out in like April, and then they did the level 1 later that summer. And then I left. And at the time, I was thinking that, all gyms must be like that gym. All CrossFit gyms are like this. I never even considered the possibility that they weren't all identical.
Because that was the message that they preached. That was the messages that they shared.
Right.
That every gym is inclusive. Come join us. It's a family. There's nothing like it. It's a community. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so you go in with that expectation of like every single one is like that.
Every single one is the same.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to go to a different one. I just call it growing. I think if I had stayed at the first gym, I was so comfortable with my coach that I don't ever think that I would have become a coach myself, because why? I was so comfortable there, but it kind of pushed me into doing things I was really uncomfortable doing. But I got an opportunity from a gym not that far away, and they wanted somebody to come in to talk about Zone, to kind of teach their members about Zone. And of course, I have always, ever since I learned about Zone, I've always been a big fan of it. I love it personally. I love how I feel. And so I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I could, there's lots of hacks to learn Zone easily and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm totally game.
Athena, real quick, can you just explain what Zone is, like a brief kind of understanding of it for people that don't know it?
I remember it.
Yeah. So I don't think it's in the level 1 anymore. I think they actually took it out, but Zone used to be in the level 1. They call it the Zone diet, but I call it more of like a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's literally, I think in the easiest way to describe it, it's literally a way of kind of fine tuning your macros so that it balances your blood sugars. It's a way for you to keep your blood sugar stable. It's a way for you to, one, just live healthy. But if you're trying to lose weight, it definitely will help get you there. So it's just awesome. It's just a cool way of eating. And I love the foods and I just love how I feel. So it's awesome. But anyway, this gym owner wanted me to come in and talk about it and teach the gym. And I remember the day that they put my picture kind of up on their Facebook page, and they're like, hey, meet Athena. She's a new CrossFit coach. She's going to be coming to the gym to teach everybody about Zone. And it did not go well. I remember like some of those first couple comments were like, what does this person know about Zone? The next one was immediately like, what kind of credentials does she have? And then there was one that was like, don't you think in order to teach Zone that you have to practice what you preach? And it just went on and on and on and on and on and on.
Mm.
To say I didn't stay there, but that was kind of it was a brutal entry outside of my home gym for sure.
Of your home gym, yeah. When you were at your home gym, did you know that that you wanted to be a coach? That was kind of your next step.
No.
So you left your home gym, branched out to this other gym,
Yep.
but got your level 1 within that transition between the first gym and the
Before I
second?
left.
Oh,
Well,
before you left.
yeah. So it was kind of like during the transition because Savon was the one that told me, hey, Athena, like you need to go get your level 1 and you're going to love it. It's going to be great. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be a coach. And he's like, well, you don't just take the level 1 because you don't want to be a coach. Like anybody can take it. Well, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was like, well, isn't there like this big test that you have to take and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, just go. You're going to learn everything at the course. So I just went and I'm like, I didn't study. I didn't prepare. I was like, well, he said I was going to get everything during the day.
Everything you needed there, right?
I mean, technically he wasn't wrong, but I didn't have any other visibility to CrossFit or fitness or nutrition or any of this stuff. So I failed the test when I took it the first time. I had to go back and retake it. So it was during that failing the exam and retaking it that happened.
That the other gym happened. You're talking about going into that other gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I did the level 1 and I always said it was one of the most inspiring.
Yeah, no, tell her
memorable.
who you took it with. Like it was the Garden City gym.
Yeah, it was the Garden City. It was Jen.
Yeah.
Jen and her husband. Yeah. And do you know Jen?
She's like my CrossFit superhero. Yeah.
Oh my, she's amazing.
I got to know her on the council.
Oh, you did? Awesome. Yeah. She was super cool. Her husband is super cool. I didn't put 2 and 2 together that she was a judge until I think after I took the course. And then we were watching like, a past games event or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, that's my coach. I had her for my level 1. Super cool. But that was one of the most memorable weekends of fitness that I have ever had. And I say that even if you don't want, I've been trying to get Garrett to go, even though she doesn't want to be a coach, but just as a lover of the methodology and at that time being so consumed with it and being in it, it's one of the most memorable weekends with a group of people that are just in it and just love it. And it's such that is where I was reminded that CrossFit is a community. That's where I was reminded that everybody has each other's backs. We're all coming from different parts of, the east side at this point or whatever, because I was out here and we all just were there for the same thing. We just wanted to become coaches. We just wanted we wanted to help people and be in the space and whatever. And so I always say too, like, even if you don't want to be a coach, go, but you love fitness and you're a big fan of CrossFit, like go do it just to have that experience.
I think one of the coolest takeaways from my level 1, I had Eubanks, I had Zach, I always forget his last name.
I know what you're talking about.
Katie Hogan, solid group. It was at the ranch. And
what you did it at the
ranch? Your L1 at the ranch?
Yeah, it was so cool. Well, we were outside, and I'll never forget this. And I think this is why it was such a powerful day for me. We were outside. They had us in a big circle. We're doing the PVC, the endless PVC.
The endless PVC.
Yeah, the endless PVC. And Dave was coming around, and he's giving us the cues or whatever. I'm trying to go down into a squat. And he was like, Athena, and he told me something with my leg. And at the time, this was before my knee surgery. So the right leg kind of bowed out, like 45 degrees. And he was like, it's okay to move your leg out further. And I was like, huh? Like, how did I not know that I could do that, like, for my body? And he taught me like how to squat for the leg that I had. And knowing like that was okay to do that. Well, who knew? And I was like, shit, here I was trying to look like everyone else. And I remember he gets up real close to me and he's like, look, your squat's not going to look like everyone else because your leg doesn't look like everyone else's leg. It's okay. And I'm like, son of a gun. And I just remember walking out of there being like, here I was, like getting frustrated and trying so hard to get this perfect looking squat. It was never going to be perfect, you know, like it was okay. And anyway, it was the best day. It was one of the best days of my life. It still was, still is today.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I had to be in squat therapy forever too, just because I mean I'm 6 feet tall, like I'm a big girl too.
Mm-hmm.
My knees go inwards. Actually, I have the exact opposite problem when I squat. But my first CrossFit coach fixed it. I literally was just in squat therapy with bands on my knees and boxes and kettlebells. And I was like, what do you mean I can't put a barbell on my back? Like I've been bodybuilding for 800 years. Why? I can squat like 200. What? I'm coming in here with 200 pounds. What are you talking about? And he's like, you're never, if you keep squatting like that, you're not going to be able to walk later.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was just like, fine, whatever. I'll put my ego over here and just do squat therapy. And my wife can tell you, I was salty because her legs were fine and mine weren't. And I was pissed because I was in squat therapy and she was at the squat rack, just like so mad.
Well, I have to thank I grew up formally trained in dance, ballet, jazz, all the type of stuff. So I have to thank my formal training of that to have the squats that I do, honey. So it's okay.
Poor Garrett. Poor Garrett.
I don't do mobility. I'm not claiming I do mobility. I don't follow any of that. I stretch just enough to be able to do the workouts that I do. But
yeah,
she's like, hey, you want to do yoga? I'm like, no.
I don't like yoga either. I tried it. I definitely don't like it. I just love hearing stories about that. I guess one, to prove that Dave does have a heart and he is kind, popular to most people's belief in certain aspects of of his day. But it reminds me also of the story that I don't know if Garrett has ever shared this with you, but our first CrossFit coach got her to climb a rope, something that she never thought she was going to be able to do. And it's just a reminder that when you have good people that really just want to fucking help, that they can help. And we're all different and we all go through things and we all have to experience workouts differently. And there's a place for all of us, you know? So hearing, you know, your story with that very much reminded me of, you know, her story and many other people's story. I mean, I had a client that came, I think she was 8 weeks fresh off of back surgery. Like she had back surgery and her doctor told her, like, you can't work out at all. You're lucky you can even walk, you know? And she came to me and I was like, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together. And we did. And she was able to start lifting stuff, you know, deadlifts, and she was able to start squatting, you know, and running a little bit and just taking our time. And, you know, as a coach, that's so important to me to start from that foundation and showing that you're capable to do it. And I just don't know if we have too many coaches out there or if we're getting what we need to be coaches like that in the space.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that'll take me into my next question. You know, I mean, I would love to get into your seminar, but I would love to kind of hear, I still want to hear the story about how you kind of started your own affiliate and how that kind of happened before we get into your seminar.
Yeah. Scaled Nation. How did it start? Everything is always a happy accident. We were in the middle of COVID and the gyms were shut down. So in order to get this, we're going to have to rewind a little bit because I had just had 2 knee replacements. And in January, at the end of January, I had walked back into a CrossFit box. I'd been out for like close to 10 months. I was coming back I'd put on like 55, close to 60 pounds. It was like 50 something pounds over that 11 months. I mean, 10 months, but I mean, I'm just sitting in a chair. And so
Yeah.
we finally was able to come back. Was a really rocky start, but came back. And then 6 weeks later, all the gyms shut down. And like, I was devastated. Like, here I was finally able to come back. And then everybody shut down. Of course, I know, like it happened to everybody, right? It wasn't just me. I was just getting frustrated with the whole thing. And I checked with the city, and I was like, okay, well, what if I build my own gym? Like, I have it right here. Am I going to fall under any kind of special anything? And with the size of it and the maximum amount of people that could fit in the garage, it's a decent sized garage, but it was only going to hold like 5 people at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, you wouldn't qualify. You just qualify as your own home gym. So it's not going to fall under city ordinances. So I was like, well, does that mean I can be open? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like,
Cool.
Oh, there you go.
done.
Sounds good. Where do I sign?
I was
Where do I sign?
Okay. So, here comes the tidal wave of, like if you had seen my garage, you're like, it was a pretty lofty place. I mean, it was just full of shit.
I'm not mad at it.
Lawnmowers and just all kinds of crap. But we did it. Like 2.5 months later, it was a sparkling new gym, and I had some place I could go. And, initially it started with somebody had called and said, hey, we heard that your space is open and it's not shut down. I'm like, city can't shut me down. So I was like, come on over here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how the membership base started picking up. Actually, my first 5 members were police officers from the city that I live in. And they just wanted a place where they could come work out. Not CrossFitters, but they're like, I was able to introduce them to CrossFit. They freaking love it. And for the first, little while, I thought everything was going good. Membership was growing really fast. And my next door neighbor comes over.
I was going to say membership to your garage.
Yeah.
I love it. I love everything about that.
And
You're like, this ain't for free.
well, the next door neighbor comes over, right? And she's like, Athena, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, why? And she's like, well, every couple mornings there's police cars out in front of your house. I was like, oh, that everything's fine. And so, that's when the neighborhood found out what was going on. And she's like, whoa, you got to keep the music low. And so, I mean, I've learned how to kind of juggle that in a residential area, but it can be done. So.
That's amazing. We used to when COVID hit, we just bought a package from Rogue and literally did it in our parking lot.
Like everybody.
I don't know if you saw the video of me throwing the softball to like mess with Sevon a little bit. Like I was just like, first try, blah, blah, and I went and did it. And I was like, oh, my body still works. But that same like ridiculous parking lot, that's where we were. If you scroll down through my Instagram, that's where during COVID, we were just outside in the parking lot.
Yeah.
With a barbell and some plates. And we would have to like take the plates out of our apartment, bring them downstairs. Like, hey, how much do you feel like lifting today? Well, how much do you feel like carrying down these stairs today? Like, it was kind of like that. Or how much can you clean? Because there's no rack. So, but yeah, I totally hear that. I think the number one thing, especially after like a couple of the little conversations that we had, it's funny that this is coming up now. The conversation of the affiliates need to thrive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like in order for the CrossFit Games to keep going and in order for us ridiculous people to watch the CrossFit Games and watch these ridiculous athletes do unbelievable things, the affiliates have to survive and not survive, but thrive.
Thrive. Yeah.
Thrive.
I would agree.
I Yeah, I've heard that over multiple platforms, and I also they've talked about it a ton. There's no other way. There's literally no other way. The affiliates have to thrive. People have to want to get behind the community, be a part of the community, and push the affiliates forward. Coaches, owners, people that are going in that want the cure to the most vexing problem. But it doesn't feel to me, I don't know what it feels like to you, but it doesn't feel like to me that right now CrossFit is embracing that and wanting to bring the people into the affiliates that actually need the affiliates, not the people that want to be CrossFit Games athletes or aspiring to, I don't know, go to semifinals or go to sanctionals or regionals or whatever it is now, but like the people that actually need CrossFit. It doesn't feel like they're catering to that. And I don't know if you can feel that, because you're trying to get the people that need CrossFit into CrossFit gyms.
I'll be honest with you. I don't really pay that much attention to what HQ is doing. I don't know. My eyes were never really on the game side either, because it was just never my thing. Not that I'm not like amazed by the games. I'm always so excited and I love and I'm inspired, but no, that was not my entry into CrossFit. I didn't like when Savon had me on the podcast, he was like, "Hey, do you know who Patrick Vellner is?" I'm like, "No." Like I didn't know anybody.
Dude, I love you so much. So much.
No, I don't know who that is. I don't know who any of these people are.
Even when I told you like I was a gigantic fan of Ben Smith, you were like, "Why?" I was like, "Wait, what? How do you what?" Like 2015. What? No? Okay.
Then, like my focus on CrossFit has always just been so different. My focus was getting more visibility on this so that it can truly become the life-saving tool that everybody says it is. But is it? That's where I'm like, it can be. And I know that it is, but are our affiliates reflective of that? And I would have to say probably not.
Is that fight the reason that you started your seminar?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I would say that's definitely one of the reasons I started the seminar, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's not just, there's lots of parts to this that doesn't have anything to do with the affiliate. It's a lot of this is, coming from the medical community, where I don't know whether it's just plain old fashioned ignorance or where that comes from the medical community, but they're like, well, CrossFit's dangerous and they don't want to refer, their bariatric clients over. It's dangerous. They're going to get hurt and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've heard everything. Mm-hmm. So part of it is that. Part of it is, I think, just trying to think of a good word.
Aren't we always trying to think of a good word?
The word.
We're always trying to think of a good word.
What's the phrase I can use? I just call it an underbelly. And it's an underbelly I never saw until I left my first box.
Yeah.
And, it's just things that get said, like, if we're going to make this a place where people can come get healthy, then we really do need to make it a place where they feel comfortable doing that. So
I saw it first when, during the games, when I was watching the games and I could watch the games on YouTube and you could see the comments come down, and I would watch it and I would see they would do close-ups on judges and things like that. And there were larger bodied judges that were, judging very famous athletes, and the comments to those judges were, it's not anything I would ever say to anybody, whether I was online, offline, and and we're supposed to be such a community. You know what I mean? And they're volunteers. Like,
Well,
as much,
yes.
that was
Yes.
tough for me, and I didn't understand it, and I was just kind of like, wait, but aren't we, like, all the new members that we ever saw, we were immediately, no matter what, like, hey, the barbells are over here, you can go get this over there. Like, did you not understand what the coach said when they were scaling it? Here, let me help you explain it, because we were more seasoned CrossFitters.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, when I saw that, I was like, are we not welcoming anymore? Or is it just like random people in the comments that don't, know CrossFit? I went both ways. Like, I was like, okay, this could just be people that don't know CrossFit, or
I mean, it literally could be anybody, right?
right. But it was just, I was like, oh, this kind of like, they can't even volunteer for something that they love to do, or that they care about, or that they're passionate about, because they're larger bodied.
I was on I wouldn't say this was a reason for the course. I would definitely say it was probably a catalyst, is that I was doing a podcast with a very well-known L4. And I don't remember what we were talking about. He was like, oh, I met you at the games. That was the first place I met you. And I was like, I believe so. And he said something along the lines of, like, I hope I don't mess this up. But he said, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. He said, he's like, don't take this personal. And I love it how everybody starts shit like that. Don't take it personal. You know something's coming.
That means it's going to be personal.
That means it's going to be personal. But
Very, very personal. Yeah.
he goes, he's like, I don't know if I'm surprised or impressed when I see people, like, speaking of larger body people, volunteering at the CrossFit Games. And he said that, and I was like, did you just say? And then he continues, and he said, like, don't they understand that this is like the mecca of fitness? Like, something's not connecting. And then he said it again, something's not connecting. And I remember, like, I couldn't digest that comment. In fact, still today, I can't. And it doesn't matter that there was an apology. It's not about that. It's more like, this is that underbelly that I'm talking about. Like, this came from someone, a coach that, like, he was the best of the best.
Yeah.
Supposed to be the best of the best. It's that level that we all aspire to be, that level of excellence that we all aspire to be. The color of the shirts that is the most coveted in CrossFit. And then something like this gets said. And part of me was like, where does this come from? Like, at what point do we say, hey, CrossFit is for everyone, but then at the same time be shocked and surprised when a larger body person happens to want to volunteer at the games? Like, what's a natural thing to do when we can't compete? We find a way to be involved. We find
a part of it, yeah.
to be a part of it. And,
I always thought that, that confidence from, that might be a confidence thing. Like, they go to the games, they volunteer, they push the weights around, they judge, they, that could be the same kind of thing that I was talking about in the beginning. It was like, I might feel like I have to go work out first before I join. Like, it's a person building confidence to go do something that they're scared of. Does that make sense?
It does. I also see it as something as simple as, like, have you ever seen, like, J-Lo starred in that movie? What was it called? The Wedding Planner.
Oh yeah.
Hey, those who can't get married plan, like it's just like if you can't
Girl,
be out
stop.
there on the floor, what's the next best thing? You find ways to like just be involved, volunteering, whether it's to be close to it. It's because your heart is there. You want to be a part of it in any way that you can. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. Yep, absolutely.
just
And
be
I also
something
think
that's
I also think the other question is like the only people that are able to compete at that level are those elite athletes that are on that field. Every single other person that volunteers cannot compete at that level. So it's like saying that you can only have the fittest people also help the fittest people. And it's like you said, like if this is
correct.
supposed to be for everybody, but then you make comments when everybody shows up for it, it very much
Right.
is that mixed
Oh.
message of like,
Well, that's
Yeah.
part of the mixed message. The
Yeah.
other part of the mix, I think there's multiple parts there. There's that one, and then there's this assumption that somebody goes from, well, one, that because that person happens to be larger body, that there's some kind of disconnect there. Like, I don't know where this person was coming from, because obviously this person never had to go through it, clearly, but it's not 500 to 200 in a day.
Mhm.
Like this is gonna, like, for me, this is 6 years in the process. At what point do we look at somebody and determine something's not connecting for them? No, it doesn't mean that something's not connecting for them. It
Mhm.
means this is wherever they're at on the journey, period.
Yep.
And that's the end of it. It doesn't
Yep.
mean anything.
Yep. Yeah.
Have you?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I absolutely. Hold on, time check. Okay, gotcha.
You're fine.
Also, had no idea until the other you're lucky because 2 days ago I had no idea what a hard stop meant, but like I pause. But 2 days ago, I heard it on somebody else's podcast, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then when you just said it, like before we started, I was like, "Oh, you're so lucky. I know what that meant," because I would have just wrote pause back to you. And like, I don't
You're
know.
like, you can hard stop at 30
I was
minutes.
like,
And no,
I
that's
mean,
not what I mean.
I know what a hard stop is in the streets. I don't know what it is in podcast terms, but I know I learned it 2 days ago. So yay. But I did want to ask you, what have you're reaching out to affiliates, right? Like you're trying to get like people in the door to affiliates. You're trying to help freaking CrossFit. Have you ever been told no? Like, have you ever reached out and been like, "Hey, I have this amazing program. I want to share it with your affiliate."
Yes.
And you were just told no?
Yes.
That sucks.
It happens a lot, actually.
So you get more no's than yeses?
I probably get equal no's versus yeses. Although I do take some personal responsibility for that, because one, we're still new. Two, our seminar page isn't even fully built out yet. So when somebody tries to go and see like, okay, well, what is this course all about? Of course, there's nothing there, So there's some personal responsibility there, but we also get, the other end of the spectrum where they're like, I don't understand, like why CrossFit needs a course like this. We don't understand like what affiliates are going to have to gain. We don't understand what, the whole, what are you going to be talking about for 8 hours? What are you going to be sharing for that long? Are you going to be talking about body positivity? Are you going to be talking about fat acceptance? I mean, I hear everything. So
we can go into that
that's an entirely
different conversation. I understand what you're saying, but yeah, that
I do think that that's the, the kind of what they think we're going to be talking about.
that, that sucks because you're actually the demographic that the affiliates need for the affiliates to thrive. And the fact that
But true.
there are 50% of affiliates that you ask that don't see that,
Yeah.
that's tough. That's tough.
I don't even know if I see it as tough anymore. It's not something that I personally take personal, but it is humorous when I start hearing like, we need more members and how do we survive and what's CrossFit doing for us? And they're completely and totally ignoring and neglecting 42% of the population that they could have in their boxes.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a no-brainer.
And those are the people too that are going to stay. They're not the people that are going to try to make the CrossFit Games
right,
and not make it and then be like, I'm done. These are the people that are going to find friends.
These are your longevity members. They're the ones that are going to come in, make friends, find community, find all of the things that they currently don't have. And they're the ones that'll stay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that we have the courses to teach affiliates like, look, all we're talking here is some slight culture changes and some language changes and how we approach the movements, and people won't leave.
Right.
No,
they won't.
They won't leave.
And that's the sad part about it. That's the thing that I watch so much, and everybody's asking, why is CrossFit dying? Is CrossFit dying? What are the metrics? What are this? And it's like, well, half or just less than half of the affiliates are catering to people that want to be CrossFit Games athletes, or they're pouring it into, and you've never said this, I'm saying this right now.
Okay.
That a whole bunch of teenagers they're teenagers and they don't know, and they're dedicating their lives to this, and they're getting burnt out, and they're suffering on.
Not every teenager.
Not everyone.
Not every teenager that comes into CrossFit, like there's a couple ways that we can look at this, Garrett. We can look at it like, hey, these people are being groomed for the games. Or we can look at it like, if somebody had introduced me to CrossFit when I was 17, how much different my life would have been.
Fair.
Like this could be, it doesn't have to be a games thing. It could be like, hey, let's introduce them young so that they don't have problems when you get to be my age and wish that I had known,
Fair. And I wish I would have had CrossFit when I was training for basketball, or when I was, just in general. Yeah.
Think about like what CrossFit does for you right now, and think about like what that could do for like a 18-year-old kid, like going into college and having to deal with all these life stresses. Like, I wish that I had had better stress management tools when I was that age, Yeah. It doesn't have to be for games.
Well, then that to me pretty much says again that they're catering more to the sports end of CrossFit, because
Do I think they do? Yeah, I definitely.
These kids aren't learning CrossFit to be better at basketball or be better at soccer or just have something to do other than, like, I'll go play, I'll go box, I'll go play softball, I'll go do whatever just to move around and whatever.
Right.
They're not teaching these kids that then, and they're not using it, or it's not being put out there in the media for that reason. It's being portrayed in the media for the games. And so these kids don't know that that's something that they can go do just for fun, for stress relief, for, hey, I didn't get to do anything today. Hey, like, these kids that's not what they're getting as far as CrossFit.
I think that could be so multi-sided too. And the reason I say that is because, why would some teenagers choose a different sport? Again, college is expensive. Maybe they're choosing other sports because, they need help with college money, or, there's no scholarships for CrossFit. There's no way to use CrossFit as you know what I mean? So, it's not hard to understand why they would choose other sports.
The only the only athlete that I've ever heard, and I'm going to give Sevon his flowers right now,
Okay.
is Tyson Bagent. He's a football player, the backup quarterback for the Bears. He used CrossFit to help what sport he loved to do.
Totally get it. Yeah.
And him putting out that media about a dude that is in the NFL and uses CrossFit as a way to stay strong and fast and explosive and whatever, that is the type of media that I feel like they should be putting out. Because then, you know what I mean? Otherwise, all you're doing is putting out media for the games and going to the games. And in fairness, no one else is putting that out but Sevon. I don't know if there is another kid that I hope there is another kid somewhere that's using CrossFit to do the sport that they love and to be better at the sport that they love, but you don't know it because you can't see it because no one covers it, because no one cares. All they cover is what are the games athletes doing.
Yeah.
And that's sad to me.
I think that trickles down to the affiliates and to the coaches, where that kind of puts that conversation into our lap, where we get to have these conversations. There was somebody else, I forget who it was. Scott Panchik is kind of jumping out for me, but don't quote me. It might not be actually him, but like encouraging kids to go play other sports, do CrossFit and go do other things, come learn, get strong, go do other things, so using that conversation where you get the benefits, the longevity of what CrossFit can do for you, with you, and what you can do with that, both physically and mentally, but not making it an end all be all where that the games is the most focused. And I think that comes down to the coaching, and I think that comes down to the affiliates, and like, how do you, and taking a look of like, how do you invest in your athletes that come to the door? How do you invest in your people that come in the door? Like for me, when I was coaching CrossFit, I was very much in tune with what each person needed. That's me as a coach. I just want to make sure that when you come in, you get what you need and you leave. Very attentive to my people. But not everybody is like that. And I think that is also part of why affiliates might not be able to hang on as much as they have. And this is from things that have been shared with me. A lot that I've gotten is like, thank you for a warm up. What do you mean a warm up? Like, other affiliates are literally like, take my money. You're going to spend this much, to be a member of my affiliate, but I'm not really going to coach you. You're kind of going to go do what you want to do. And I've heard that from a lot of members that have come in, like for drop-ins and stuff like that. And as a coach, I just feel like it's my responsibility to show up for you. And so I think with that whole conversation about like these teens, like running into CrossFit and only seeing the games, I think that is something that we as coaches get to kind of have that conversation where it's not all about the games. Learn it now. If you want to do it later, cool. I think it was actually Dallin Pepper that said it, that him personally, he kind of like did both. And he could kind of see that he missed a little bit of sports, focused on that a little bit, also did CrossFit, and now he's like officially in CrossFit. And I think that for me, that's one of the reasons why I loved CrossFit in the beginning. And I wish I had it when I was a dancer, way back when, like as a foundation for whatever else you do after that.
Athena, what's the feedback that you get? Like when you have your community talk to you, what's the feedback that you get from like how they see their coaches, how they like, do they get the proper attention from their coaches that they're supposed to, like, that they should get?
No, I think that's why this is one of the reasons that the course exists. I think that, CrossFit does an amazing job, teaching and grooming coaches. We have the 9 foundational movements, and we teach coaches how to progress those 9 foundational movements very well. I think the trouble and the gap is that once we take that into the affiliate, there's everything else. There's push-ups
Everything
and
else.
sit-ups and wall walks and rope climbs and everything else that happens in a CrossFit gym. For some reason, I mean, you would think that the coaches would be like, okay, you know, we have progressions on these. Can we go back and build progressions on everything else? I think that maybe they understand that part, but I think that there's definitely a gap in understanding how many progressions there really needs to be for so many people. That's huge.
Is there anything like, and I mean, I hate to ask this, but I do want to have, I do want to have people understand it, but what are some of the things that people hear from coaches? Like is it really bad? I mean, you don't have to tell me exactly what it is, but is it really bad? Like, do they just get ignored in gyms or?
No, I don't want to call it ignoring. I don't think it's anything intentional. I've never run across a whole lot of coaches where I firmly believe like they're just being intentional tools. You know, it's more like not understanding people's bodies, not understanding what they are really capable of doing and what they can't, what they might not be ready for. Not understanding, you know, like to a coach who has, I'm trying to give you a good example. Again, I don't believe it's intentional, and I don't believe it comes from a place of malice. I really think it just comes from a place of they've never had to walk that line before. You know, like somebody, to a lot of these coaches, they grow up with sports. They've had sports a part of their lives. They were active. You know what I mean? Like they've always had that. And so for them, something like, you know, a 12-inch step up, that's as easy as it gets. You know, like what could be more simple than that? Not understanding, like there are going to be people that come in there more than the ones that can, that aren't ready for something that easy. You know, like you'll be hard pressed for somebody to be ready for a 45-inch step up, let alone a 12-inch box, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think it's trying to get the coaches connected to where to start people.
Yeah.
Like we start people at ground zero. We should be starting people on ground zero on everything.
Yeah.
Work their way up. So that's where I think a lot of the gaps are.
I gotcha.
Yeah, just I don't think that. I mean, I'm thinking of my L1. I mean, I took it a long time ago, but they don't teach you how to scale. They say you should be able to scale, and you or modify and give many options for many different people, no matter their abilities or challenges or limitations or anything like that. But a lot of the modifications that I had to give for clients that came in, like, you know, I used the one that had the back surgery, for instance, and I'll, you know, use her as an example again. I had never worked with someone that had just gotten done with back surgery, but I was proactive in constantly reading and learning and watching and observing and seeing how other people coach and what other things people have used, and also just being mindful of like, okay, it's in the back. What impacts the back? Running. Okay, we probably shouldn't run. The row would probably bother her in the beginning. Probably shouldn't row. So we're going to be hanging out on the bike a lot. If you want to run, you can go out for like a walk, start there and really try to like find those modifications for her. But I didn't learn that in my course.
No.
I learned that from my additional learning and what I chose to learn. So do you feel
my bad.
In
That was
your
my bad.
course,
I didn't change it.
In your course, do you feel like that's the gift for coaches that is missing? Is that knowledge? And
I don't know if I would call it the gift, but I would definitely call it like, hey, we all went to the level one, or the ones that did go to the level one, like, hey, this is what we learned. Let's take it back to the beginning. And what did we come out of there with? You know what I mean? Like, we learn all this progressions, we learn all these things in the level 1. Now we have to like take that and apply it to everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to go back to the book to
Yeah.
say, hey, how do I modify push-ups 30 different ways so that people have stairs they can climb so that they believe that they're making progress? And like, how do we, I think it goes back to all those questions that coaches ask, like, hey, you know, like, how do we keep people motivated? Well, are the progressions too far apart? Because if they don't ever feel like they're going to get a toast bar, they're going to give up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's just, it's taking them back and saying like, okay, let's take what we learned here and build off of that. And how can we take that back to our gym? So that's one part of our course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also just touch on, you've talked to us so much about, oh, babe, you're so much better at switching that than
I
me.
got you.
I think I'm terrible.
Eyes
I forget. I get.
I mean, I was gonna say, are you a little dizzy yet?
I am.
Like back and
I'm
forth,
sorry.
back and forth.
I'm
No.
sorry. We have to keep one. We have to keep one of us like in the bottom just in case our kid needs something.
No,
So it's like,
it's
who's
okay.
talking? Okay, let's go.
The little boxes like float across. I'm like,
I know. I'm so sorry.
And then you follow it. It's like a piece of dust. You just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
follow it to the other side.
At some point, I will figure out how to make StreamYard just like 3 boxes where we can all be next to each other, and then I can just like it's fine. I'll figure it out sometime. But you were talking to me so much about how there's a certain like Scaled Nation. I think you just have so many fans that everybody kind of wants to or to be at your seminars, to be around you, to learn from you, and
that's very kind. Thank you.
I mean, it is like, but you've always said that, you know, these seminars aren't for everybody. Like they're
No.
for the coaches, not kind of, I don't know the best word to say.
For the athletes.
For fans, I don't know, like, or for, you know, the people that are going to be trained by these coaches.
Well, okay. So again, 2 sides to the coin. In the beginning, and we started seeing it pick up, you know, like we would have a lot of larger bodies signing up for the seminar. And at first I was like, well, why are they coming? You know, like they already know what it's like to be a larger body. Like, what could I possibly teach them that they don't already know? But it's amazing to me how many people come out of there saying, I've been a larger body my whole life and I didn't even know this shit. I didn't know that this is why it happened. I didn't know this is why I feel the way I do and why my body feels the way it does. And it never occurred to me that even they wouldn't know how to connect some of those dots. So there was that part. But then there's also like this other part where people believe this is a space for larger bodies and this should be a safe place. I'm like, no, that's not exactly what this is. Like, this is a course for the larger bodies coaches and their trainers and their medical personnel, their friends, their family, like the people that are trying to help them. That's who this is for. It's not a safe place per se for however we want to define that, right? A nice,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
nice coochie bouncy ball for larger bodies. That's not what it was for. There's very personal and very sensitive content. And where I get nervous sometimes is I want this to be a place where these coaches can ask the questions that they're afraid to ask anywhere else. And my fear has always been, if there's a room full of larger bodies, they're not going to ask the questions that they really want to ask. And so anytime on the registration form where I see that somebody has indicated their LBA, I call them and I'm like, okay, just so you know, I'm not going to talk you out of coming, but what I do want you to know is what you're getting into.
Right.
You know, like this was a space designed for them. There could be words used that you won't like. You could hear something that could be triggering. If that's going to bother you, don't be there. Because I need this to be a place for them. You know, like, let me be your voice to speak for you. So.
Absolutely. I Shoot, girl.
How was that received?
Very well, actually. I
Okay.
think we appreciate the call. I never had it go wrong yet.
Yeah.
Couple
Knock
of
on
them,
wood. I got you.
no, I totally, I totally get it. But I always say, and I warn them ahead of time, like, what are you going to do if you hear a word that's sensitive?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, like, I know why it's sensitive, but they don't. you know, so
I know. I think I've talked to you, a handful of times, and I think I even half trip up on it, like like when I'm trying to talk and be respectful and not like I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm not trying, you know what I
course.
mean? And you feel like, oh shoot, like how do I approach this in the most respectful way that I possibly can approach it?
Right.
And if I don't know you personally,
Mhm.
then I really don't know how to approach it.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, the seminar helpful. Like, please, for those of us that, we're trying to help. We want you to succeed. We want everybody to succeed. We want a big, happy family that just comes in, works out together, has fun, high five, sweat
Right.
on the floor. And like, how do we not like be douchebags? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you not what in this culture, in this climate, how do you just be helpful? Like, that's pretty much, I think, what the majority of people want to do. They want to be helpful.
I think so. I think a lot of the things that happen, again, are not deliberate at
Yeah.
all. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of feedback, and we collected a shitload of it when we were creating the course. And I do think that there's equal parts. There's some real tools in our community, but there's just as many people that they're trying, they mean well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things they didn't know. They didn't know, like, I didn't know this was going to get her frustrated, or I thought I was giving her the right modification. You know what I mean? Like, they want to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I know you did, and I know a lot of coaches that we've had, babe, over the years. Like they've just wanted to help. Like, what do you want to do?
yeah,
And just didn't know how to.
that's it.
But it does kind of like it kind of hurts me to hear that like 50% or half the affiliates that you reach out to, or just a little less than half or whatever it is, don't want to.
I try not to tell myself stories. I think we all do, right? We can tell ourselves stories on every level. Who knows, why?
We just do it. We're humans. That's what we do.
Yeah, we try to fill in the blanks, but I mean, we don't know.
You didn't answer my text fast enough, so you must not like me today, or I did something wrong, or you had to feed the dog and go to work, and
Exactly.
you'll get back to me later.
Like, let's go back to the core of it. Like, I don't know why they say no. It could be for something. Who knows? Who effing knows? And maybe I don't even want to know. Whatever.
Probably, right?
Fair.
So,
Yeah. Girl, super awesome. I want to let you go. My kid's probably going to need 50. We got the last like 10 minutes, which is why I put us all up on the screen, because I was like, oh, he's not running around looking for pouches.
Actually
And
sitting for a second.
yeah, I was like, okay, cool. We can all look at each other and be happy. But and I know that I know what a hard stop is, so I'm gonna let you go before.
thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I did put your IG handle in the description, so people have questions, find ways to get in touch with you about your seminar. Do you have a next city where you might be running your seminar, or are you kind of waiting for the next stop of where
Oh
you?
gosh, we've got some really cool stuff cooking for next season. We're coming into like our quiet time. I say our quiet time, it doesn't mean that anything's going to slow down, but
Right, of course.
kind of our catch up time around the holidays to like get some of this stuff done on the site that I've been meaning to get done.
Yeah.
And, but starting in January, there's so many great locations. I can't really
That's
tell
okay.
Yeah, no.
You don't have to share
tell
now.
anybody what we're going to be doing, but I will say, like, it's some cool stuff coming down the pipe for sure. And I think some of the locations people are going to be excited just to go. So
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
let us know. We'll share it on our IGs. We'll
Yeah.
bring it up on a podcast and make a reel or something. So just let us know anything you need.
Yeah.
Seriously.
well, today, I could just tell you one that we just put up today. So we'll be in, it's not probably our next one, but it's the first one that we were able to put up for 2024 on the schedule. And that's, a lot of people don't know, but we partnered up with HSN for the seminar.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, so we love we're just in alignment in terms of like how we approach nutrition. And I personally think it should be that approach with everybody in your gym, not just larger bodies.
Right.
And so I love what she's doing. And so we are going to be presenters during those breakout sessions at the summit. And that weekend, we're going to piggyback and have a seminar there in Nashville on a Sunday
Very cool.
this time. So, but yeah, we'll be updating the calendar. There should be stuff happening all the way from January all the way through November of next year. So it's going to be pretty cool.
That's super
Very
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing before you go.
Yeah.
So if you were sitting in a room with
Yeah.
a bunch of coaches,
Oh boy.
Yeah.
what's the number one thing or what number one tip, number one piece of advice that you would give them working with larger body athletes? If you could leave them with one thing.
Never make assumptions. Don't make assumptions.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Mic
As
drop.
easy as it gets.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Thanks, girls, so much. This was so much fun.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk soon.
I appreciate it so much. You're the
Lots
best.
of love, ladies.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Super cool. I know we didn't get to get into everything that we wanted to. I so much wanted to ask her about Diablo and how that went and whatnot, but so many conversations that are happening right now in the CrossFit space, and I just felt like it was cool to bring that up. But
And I love it. The biggest thing as a coach is that, something that I hold very dear to my heart as a coach is that I care about every athlete that comes in, and not every athlete is the same.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what your body looks like. It doesn't matter, where you come from. It's about where you are that day, how you're feeling that day, and how I can help you. And I think that we just need more coaches like that. And the fact that she has a seminar that invites people to ask those questions and to be a part of the conversation. And
I'm still mad that they I don't know. I won't say it. All right, I'll say it. CrossFit's stupid. They should be using this to no end I don't know. I just don't know how you don't. I don't understand it. You and I have talked about this for days and days and days. And but apparently
I don't know why you
it's above
wouldn't.
my pay grade. So.
I don't know why you wouldn't want more tools in your toolbox to reach more people and to support more people and to guide more people and to, live up to the message that is being, shared, which is that CrossFit is a lifestyle and that it saves lives. And yet it's not.
I know they're so smart and yet so frustrating.
Yep.
And on that, deuces.
We're done. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Oh my